Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive once again into the world of Golarion, the world setting for the Pathfinder role-playing game system? Well, I know I am, and I hope you are, so grab my hand. We're going to be traveling through a gateway to plane shift to, yet again, the world of Golarion, to visit a location and learn all about it. I, your guide and host here, Tantanavra Dracovin, just asking for a little tip of liking, subscribing, and the bell, as I grab your hand and drag you to Usaro, the city of the Gorilla King. We've plane shifted to Golarion. Once again, we've arrived. Along the Expanse, I've talked about it before, can be a dangerous place, and we're entering one of the most dangerous places. At least it was. Things have calmed down here, but how long? I don't know. For now, let's settle in and let's see what we can learn about Usaro. City-State, and I use that loosely, that we're going to talk about today. Well, beyond what I say here, what's some other sources you can look into for some extra information on Usaro? There is a good chunk of it. Of course, one of your best bets is if you look at the Mists of Mwangi, which you can see over there on the one side for the Pathfinder Society. Is a good place to go to. You can also look at The Heart of the Jungle. Those two books there, I definitely would recommend for some basic adventuring and settings there. Of course, from the Adventure Path, Serpent Skull, we get Vaults of Madness, and it has the ecology of the Charukah. Charukah are the major species in Usaro, so that's why it's important to look at them. Of course, the World Guide does provide a little bit. I won't lie that there is a little bit of information here and there. Some other places, like the War of the Immortals, provide some background of some stuff going on here, but it's very minor. So rather than put a book here, I'm just shouting out that the new book that just came out, War of the Immortals, does have a little bit about what's going on in Usaro. Just a small update we're talking about. But major updates, major information, these here are the places that you're going to want to look more than anything. So, you can see there's a nice lake there in the middle of the Mwangi Expanse. That's important here because on its borders, if you can see the map there, is Usaro. Yeah, that's it right there. It's on the shores of Lake Okada, southern shoreline there. It is, again, majority of the population Charukah. And it was formerly the domain of the Gorilla Kings, who served Agazon, the Demon Lord of Beasts. This is important because we're going to talk about the Gorilla Kings, and talk about what's happening now, after the Gorilla Kings, which is very recent. Of course, it's also located on the Blood River. Very nice name there. The people of this place are feared throughout the Expanse. Basically, Charukah are dangerous on themselves, but organized under the Gorilla King, they're even more dangerous. Basically, having a king who lords over them and controls them, and their normal nature that they might just fight in amongst themselves or act very much like beasts. He brings about an intellect in them they normally, I wouldn't say don't have, but suppress and allow the basic beast to come out. Now, it isn't to say that there aren't massive treasures here. The treasure vaults of the Gorilla King are famed for priceless riches. The mighty bombard Worldbreaker, the ominous sounds of human skull drums and other treasures. But if you approach, the ominous sounds of human skull drums carry across the lake and deter, basically, treasure hunters that are maybe all but the bravest or most foolhardy to enter in there. Because even now that the Gorilla Kings are gone and we have a new ruler, doesn't mean that there isn't stuff. And we do technically have a new ruler, a Mwangi warrior by the name of Shosenbe. We'll talk about him, who's kind of claimed the throne here. Now, unfortunately, though, that claim isn't really there. We'll talk about it. The city has gone from this monarchy to anarchy. Without the Gorilla King, things break apart. The Charukah kind of fight amongst themselves, go their simple tribal ways. But Doesn't mean it's not dangerous, it's still filled with Shadowka. And most of them still worship Angazan, the Demon Lord of Beasts, and so the influence there is pretty heavy. Now this is a drawing of Usaro, a kind of map. Let's talk about the history of this place. Basically, the belief is the city was built hundreds of years ago by cultists of Angazan. An alternate theory is the city was abandoned by its original builders, possibly because of the deadly Tiktan, which, if you are unaware of the Tiktan, is a deadly mist, which kind of comes out in this area. So a threat if you are in the city. The local Zenji tribes have always kept away from the city, and their warnings about ferocious, intelligent apes are usually dismissed by foreigners. Guess what? They are horrible, ferocious, intelligent apes. Shadowka, the Gorilla King, The Talador's 6th Army of Exploration found that their cost of ignoring these stories was, well, high. It was all too true. The Gorilla King's forces massacred them at the Battle of Nagisa, and those that survived ensures that outsiders would know of what happened there. So yeah, it took a while for the outsiders to know, oh hey, there's something really terrible going on here. Now we get to our more modern era in the last couple of decades, and it starts with 4690 AR, where the last Gorilla King, the most recent one, Ruth-Azek, ordered his forces to attack Alkenstar, and he made off the nation's largest bombard. Hey, Worldbreaker, which is theoretically still in the city. And then in 4706, he beheaded 17 missionaries of the Apis Consortium, of 17 missionaries and Apis Consortium merchants. And then in 4710, adventurers who have covered the city of Savanth Yi, which I will note is a ruined city within the Mwangi Expanse, founded basically by the followers of the Atlantic hero Savanth after he had beheaded the serpent folk god Yadrasis. Just a little background there. That's why the city was important. Anyway, they could face the Gorilla King there, and Rusek was killed. And now, basically, without any kind of possible successor, chaos ensued. His leaders' minions, including his Derhi lieutenants, Gigantotherapicus advisors, and Shadowka common soldiers, basically turned on each other in a power vacuum. After several months of this battle, the Kalijay elves took advantage of this order and invaded Usaro and freed a lot of the captives that had been held there. The population further splintered when orcs raided the city and seized the totem of Agazon, and many survivors claimed that Usaro had thus lost Agazon's blessing. So the city has lost a lot. And the totem is important because it relates to creating a Gorilla King. Now, it doesn't mean there aren't possibly more of these artifacts. They're minor artifacts, not major artifacts. But again, at least the one that was in Usaro has been removed and taken away. It's hard to replace the Gorilla King if there is none. Anyway. Hit the button too soon. Let's talk about what's in the city. So the city consists of ancient ziggurats made of white stone that meld in the jungle. Only the tallest buildings appear over the canopy of the forest. They're decorated with, well, basically the remains of the nation's foes. The prisoners and slaves walk the streets. The high throne of the Gorilla King is located at the top of an ancient temple crowned with a massive granite sculpture of an ape's head. There are also circles of ape head totems throughout the city that are used for bloodthirsty rituals. The domed Agazon's oracle is beside the river. Here, prisoners are prepared for sacrifices, and Agazani oracles attempt to predict the future. Captives are kept in a nearby bridge of cages dangling across the river. Sometimes the cages are lowered slowly into the river. The water is infested with piranhas, and the oracles believe the screams of the prisoners will help them in their prophesied. Yeah. Beneath the temple is a seemingly bottomless pit. This is the Chasm of Screams! Hey, where the deadly mist known as Tiktan comes from. Some feel that it might be the reason the city was originally abandoned. Ancient pillars stand along the river. The city guard often scale them and use them as vantage points. There's a small pair of islands at some point in the Blood River where it flows into Lake Okata, known as the mouth of Usaro. The city's fleet of dung-out canoes and kayaks were moored here when not in use. So they did have a wild navy, too. Now we speak of the Gorilla King and the current government and people that live here. Okay, so we have to first talk about the Gorilla King as a whole. The Gorilla King was the ruler of the city. Below him, status was awarded those strong enough and cunning enough to seize it. Competition was encouraged, and it removed weaker members of society. Those individuals with high status were sometimes called the Court of Hateful Smiles. There have been a number of Gorilla Kings, or Silverback Kings. It is believed that with the earliest founding of at least this being a city of Agazon, there has been a Gorilla King in power. With the current one being killed off directly, it's kind of changed things. Basically, those that are worthy to become a member of a Gorilla King must make their way to the top of the pyramid-shaped palace in the heart of the dread Usaro. They must touch the totem, a granite representation of a demonic ape's head. This feat is traditionally only achieved after stepping over the dead body of the incumbent Gorilla King. So basically, in order to become a new Gorilla King, you have to kill the other one and then touch the totem. You've proven yourself stronger than them. Then you, as a human, because these are former humans that become these sentient gorillas that are magically awakened and more powerful. It's not clear what would happen if a candidate touched the totem while the Gorilla King is still alive. It would have to be a candidate. Remember, adventurers killed the current one. That's why things haven't been as easy to replace him, rather than the current one being killed by one to replace it. Basically, qualities of Agazon's favor are strength, charisma, ruthlessness. Unworthy applicants are ripped to pieces, some say by Agazon himself. Yeah. If you're a worthy applicant, you're slain and immediately returned as a great ape, with intelligence, skill, and ability of your previous life, but in the strength and toughness of the gorilla body. The first one was said to be a hunter which slumbered on the altar in 106 AR, in the place that was Usaro. There's also known that a Gorilla King shattered the Sabosun city of J Trillion and scattered them to the expanse. Of course, I mentioned taking Worldbreaker, beating up the 6 Army of Expiration, and yeah, kind of where we get the history of the Gorilla Kings, as we know it. And now, they're dead. So now we turn to Sosembe. Now this is all going to be coming from the current information in War of the Immortals. Kind of where it is. So, a Mwangi warrior and Agazon worshipper Sosembe has promised to exact revenge on the elves and orcs. Remember, orcs had taken the totem. Even if he is a human worshipper and proved his worth and done other things to prove it, he could not transform, no totem. Called the Chosen, he deflected further raids and seeks to unite Usaro against his enemies. However, Sosembe is light-lipped about his motives and allegiances, and suspected he does not actually worship Agazon and only follows his own ends. This was all information in the World Guide. Now we get it that it's true. In 4724, he was proven true as he destroyed the altar of Agazon and absorbed some of the Demon Lord's power. He has declared himself ruler of Agazon and titles himself a Demon Breaker, much to Agazon's chagrin. So basically, it's like, I have taken over, I've destroyed the altar where the totem would be kept. And yeah, he kind of smashed things up and changed things. Now, it is also important to note that due to the city-state's weakened condition, there have been others getting into the region, claiming Lake the Fens, groves, shorelines, Lake Octa, and basically the remains of the military of Usaro has been battling against them, and it's a very tough battle because they're fractured. A lot of them are. So the inhabitants raise baboons as hunting animals, they keep them in pens, the Charaka, are the ones that are the most organized of all these species there. But again, that's where we kind of are. There are a few others. There are some human worshippers of Agazon who are tough, powerful people that can prove themselves worthy to be there. So it's not to say that there aren't humans other than Charaka, too. We've seen because of the Wangi warrior Shosembe, who turned out not to be a worshipper of Agazon and tricked everybody just to piss everybody off. And, you know, we'll see how that goes post War of the Immortals. But, yeah, a demon breaker. You know, pissing off Agazon, who's now lost control of Usaro. There's Charaka. Who knows what's going to happen there? Long Expanse is changing with that one. Thanks, War of the Immortals. A lot of stuff is going to be happening what we're going to be talking about as of the recording of this one. But, yeah, there's Usaro, as we know it now. We might get some major events going on in this region. We might not. It's hard to say. Certainly speaking, things are going on there, as we can see more than that. With the death of the Gorilla King and the kind of freedom from that, chaos reigns, anarchy. And some people that are trying to step up, well, one's not really loyal and has, you know, further fractured things and made things a mess. Nonetheless, it's a dangerous place. It is filled with beings that would probably want your average other humanoid, other ancestry, dead. Charaka are not friendly to anybody other than themselves or those that have proven themselves probably loyal warriors of Agazon. And even then, they're probably not going to be super friendly if they can see, you know, it's survival of the fittest. The strong rule, the strong survive. Strongest and smartest. That's very heavy in there. That was always under the Gorilla King, and it's not gone, it's just the hierarchy is kind of broken apart. There was always this Gorilla King at the top, keeping the totem, or the pyramid of strength, kind of together. Now there isn't that top of the pyramid, and everything kind of breaks apart, fighting in amongst itself, and it's a mess. It's a dangerous mess. There might be great treasures to find there. It's a dangerous mess. So, an interesting place to possibly explore, or honestly to stay away from. You know? Keep it in mind. Anyway, that'll be it for today. I hope you enjoyed everything. Remember to check out all my other stuff. I do either over on Twitch, or over on YouTube. My schedule for that is on my Discord, Twitter/X, Blue Sky, and I put it up on my YouTube. That just tells you when I'm going live to record anything, when I'm uploading those tabletop stuff to YouTube, when I'm going live over on Twitch just to do some gaming, all those kind of stuff. Remember to check out any of my live plays. I currently don't, at the time of recording this, don't have any going, but I'm going to be starting some new ones soon. You can check out my last one I just finished, The Crimson Queen. Last episode should be up at the time when you kind of see this. I recommend checking it out, seeing the full series. I also have, of course, discussing tabletop Saturdays at 6. Remember to do that stuff I said at the beginning, like and subscribe and ring the bell. My question for today, of course, is, because I like to give a good discussion question, have any of you done an adventure in Usaro? Or dealt with anything that's related to it? You could have done the adventure where heroes defeat the Gorilla King, or you could have battled against some of his forces in Charakav and the Long Expanse. I'm interested in how many of you out there have done that and what your adventures were related to this entire thing. Alright, everybody, I think that's all the shout-outs I normally give. I never remember everything. You know, I'm bad. But I'm going to get going and go hang out with Twitch chat a little bit, maybe record some more videos, do a few other things. We'll see what we do. But for now, I thank you for joining me. We'll talk about more Pathfinder topics, more other role-playing topics in the future, and go over all these things, and I'll teach you more interesting stuff that we can visit and learn about. I love talking about these things. But until then, until that next time, we discuss some places, learn about them, dive deep. I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.